Well, good day, everyone. It's the Two Ordinary Cops, and we're back for the second part of the coronial inquest. Now, Damo, mate, do you want to give us a bit of a recap on what we spoke about in the first part?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, for sure. We finished off with Zach, and welcome back, mate. How you going?
I'm well, good. Thank you, boys. How you guys?
That's the go. It's like, we finished off. Obviously, we've gone. Oh man, I still shake my head, and I know so many people do, but we've gone through basically the coronials, and we're still going through it. But we finished off talking about the river rescue and how there's some criticism around that, and to me, we finished off on that part where. What's the purpose of the police? Protection of life and property. So why would you criticise a copper for protecting life? It just sort of made me a little bit, I shook my head. But what are your thoughts, Schultzy?
Yeah, mate, yeah. I mean, yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, we actually joined the job to protect people and save them. And, I mean, that's part of our, I suppose, passion of doing that sort of stuff. So you can't, and like you said, you can't just stand by and watch somebody get flooded about or pushed away or downstream by floodwaters. You've got to do something, and you've got to come up with the best possible scenario. And sometimes you have to put your life at risk doing that. I mean, that's why we carry a gun. It's to protect ourselves, and because we will be in life-threatening situations. It's a no-brainer. And I really don't like how some of the cops try and shy away from that. I've got a number of stories where they didn't want media releases because it painted us in a dangerous job. We are in a dangerous job.
Yeah.
It's a fact. So, but mate, just before we actually continue on, I know just when this second part kicks off, Zach talks about some of the people in the police, and just to give it a bit of credibility, I'll sit there and say there are some police officers that go through the job basically not doing much frontline experience. And they can go up through the ranks without actually having to experience the full, if you look at Damo, myself, Zach, you go out bush, you do some more serious services in the police. You spend a lot of time in general duties. All that sort of stuff builds experience, and it builds character, and it gives you a lot better, I think, I suppose, a lot better understanding when you get to the higher ranks to know what's going on beneath you. And I think if anything comes out of this, I'd like the police force to actually look at that to make sure that the people they do have in leadership roles do have the experience to be able to guide those members because they've experienced it. But, mate, you want to add anything else?
No, I think that covers it, mate. That was the takeaway. But obviously, Zach, we finished off talking about some people, they haven't been there. They haven't had to do that sort of stuff. So I think we can roll back into that if you like.
Yeah, for sure. So that was just in regard to the river. Obviously, that was just one incident, and then there's many others that we could talk about. And as you said, some people don't get much experience frontline, and some people it's not a criticism to them, and it's just the ways in which they're going down the career path. And some people, it could be a criticism because they're hiding from that that experience. But yeah, so that was the river job, and then we move on to the other parts of the coronial. And that brings us back to what I think we talked about at the very start. The cops involved from that very start in regard to like the negative response to the river actions and stuff like that of me, and again, not only me but my Sarge that day as well. They're not real cops. They've been in the job, they wear the uniform, but they're not real cops. They've spent the 10, 20, 30 years in the job, and they've never helped someone. They've never put themselves between danger and the person who needed help. They've never made that real difference, and they've never got the respect of the troops around them, which we have. And I think they're jealous of that. And the way that they want to feel close to that is by taking down a good cop. So they used that against me in the week I gave the first week I gave evidence. But I think the biggest thing was, and again, I never wanted to give evidence, and people don't understand that I tried to avoid giving evidence in this coronial as much as I could. And if I didn't give evidence, we would have reached the exact same outcome with less collateral. Because when I gave evidence, I got asked the question we all knew it was going to get asked. Have you ever seen racist language used in the NT police force? Because my argument was this, yeah, I said something racist, but I am not a racist, but I said something racist. And I think we can all agree if you say something racist, that doesn't necessarily mean you are racist. You play soccer once, you're not a soccer player. No. So I admit it. I said something racist, but I'm not a racist. And they go, well, have you seen other examples of racist language used in the NT police? And it got to the point where that was asked of me in those 5 days. And I said, yeah. And here's, and obviously I could say yes and say, I've heard this, I've heard that. I know they're not going to do anything. But I was aware of this, and I think we can talk about it, the Nugget Awards amongst the Territory Response Group. And again, I agree with what they eventually have said about that that was exactly the same defense we've said, dark humor, venting, unprofessional, yes, but it wasn't in a professional setting. I agree with all that. And I came up with obviously there's a decision point in my head. Do I talk about this? I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to, because here's the thing. Here's a point where I can say, here is hard evidence of racist language being used at some of the top tiers of the NT police. And this will finally put a hole in the narrative against me. And they cannot deny that the narrative against me has been false from the start. And I've given a lot of evidence in regard to other actions, but none of it was accepted. But this was just that kind of like, here's this. So I gave this evidence and I said, yes, there's an award every year amongst a particular team in the NT, high-level team, and it's gone on for years, and I'm aware of it because of my mates and this and that. Uses a racial slur against Indigenous. That's the main point of the award. And it happens every year. Immediately, we get 5... I start getting called a liar by the lawyers, you know that? And then 5 very senior NT police officers, I believe the night that I gave the evidence or the next night, wrote statements basically just calling me a liar. It doesn't exist. Now, when I gave evidence, I looked at the camera because it's being recorded. And I said, hey, before you go denying this, I've got the evidence, the photos, and all this to back me up. And I guess the profit loss thing in my head, the risk and reward thing was this, that I knew based off the police officer, the NT police's findings so far, as much as they talked about these messages being the worst things in the world, everyone involved had, again, gotten remedial guidance. That's it. Meaning, in our terms, meaning nothing. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So I knew that if I talked about this evidence, the absolute worst case scenario was that a group of guys, potentially up to 60 or more over the 2 decades, would get remedial guidance. Nothing. So for this coronial that was damaging the NT police, that was damaging the community by disempowering the NT police, I was like, it's a risk versus reward thing, and everyone should be able to see that strategy that I'm using. By one, doing what I have to do, being under oath in the box. These 5 boys obviously didn't see it that way and didn't see the outcome of remedial guidance, if anything, being worth it. So they then called and wrote police statements calling me a liar and saying that these awards never existed. And then I was like, oh, okay, carry on. So we carried on with giving evidence for the next couple of days, just and getting torn apart. And as I said, like because my main lawyer had been basically just like nullified by the coroner. He wasn't even allowed to speak. We basically had to bring in a new lawyer 6 days before I gave evidence. And he was a mad dog as well. Like, all my lawyers were good to go. But this old Michael Abbott was just a kind of character. I remember like just basically getting, you know how it is, you're just getting torn apart on the stand all day about everything you've ever done, you know, like back to your army days, back to your kid days and stuff like this. And I remember walking into the little break room with my missus and a couple of mates, a couple of the boys who were still in the job, and this lawyer, and just being exhausted, you know, like just being like, how can this day get any worse? You know, basically just getting like your whole life thrown at you, all the worst parts about you on YouTube, and plus the media are there. And but you just have to laugh as well. Like, you have to laugh because cops are broken on the witness box, and they've gone home and they've bashed themselves for weeks. And I remember just going back in this little room after a day of just getting shredded and just looking at my lawyer and just being like, we've got them where we want them, Michael. And he would just be laughing, going, they're up against the rope, Zach. Yeah. And we're just laughing about it, you know, because That's how you got to deal with it. Like, at the end of the day, you're in a box, nerds are asking you questions. There's no consequence.
No. Where's the blood?
Exactly. Touch me.
Where's the
touch
knife?
me. Come touch me. So none of them are going to do anything, and they all know it. It was such a weird environment. I remember even one lawyer was cross-examining me about, and I don't think you're even supposed to call it cross-examining in a coronial, but it was cross-examination. And he was asking me questions about combat psychology and this, and I was like, mate, have you ever been in a fight in your life? And he goes, no, I never have. And I was like, why did you answer that? Like, you should have shut me down, but it's just like such a weird environment here. But on the Friday, so I'd given evidence starting Monday, it's now Friday. My main lawyer had to leave at midday. And guess what? And he was good to go. He didn't care about all these like attempts to shut him down. He would object to everything. I took some notes in, like I'd made notes with my lawyers, and I took them into the box. I didn't know the rules of the coronial system, but when I went in there at one day, they decided that they're going to seize my notes. I don't know what they thought were on my notes. It was just discussion points for me and my lawyers, but they included what I talked about before with the dirt file, which in my notes I'd been like, is this perverting the course of justice? Is this tampering with a witness? And then discussing what had occurred. And then they'd see, it got to the point we had an argument about it, and my lawyer hits me up. He's like, mate, if you don't want to give the notes, we'll both go down together for our contempt of court. And I was like, they can have them. Like, they don't mean anything. They got the notes. Again, so every legal party in that room saw my notes regarding that dirt file. Not a single one asked me about them. Not a single one. Because they didn't care. It didn't fit the narrative. But we get to Friday, and this is supposed to be the last day I give evidence. So through this time, I've just basically been shredded. I've given evidence that, like, obviously there is racist language in the NT police, but I'd never seen racist actions amongst the NT police cops. Or, like, I think I said I'd never, maybe once, and it was just a dumb dude, and he got shredded by himself, by the public, and he learned his lesson.
Yeah.
Because it's something like, he saw a woman humbugging, or what he thought was humbugging someone, but they were mates. He yelled at her to stop humbugging. Obviously, her mates just shredded him for being a racist and making that assumption. And fair enough, Yeah. He put his tail between his legs. He ran to the car, and I laughed at him. I was like, you fucking deserve that. Yeah. And he learned his lesson from it. So, but apart from that, I'd never seen, and I brought up the rules that we talked about earlier, the watch house, the question if it's racist to think that an ACT post should be there whenever you arrest an Aboriginal person. I brought all that up, but no one questioned me on any of that because they didn't care. It didn't fit the narrative. But basically, I was stoked. We were done. Friday's wrapping up. Cannot wait. Michael Abbott, my lawyer, is supposed to leave early at midday, so we're trying to hurry it through. But all of a sudden, technical issues. There hadn't been technical issues the whole week. And they start going on all morning. And I just saw the writing on the wall. They were waiting. In my head, they're waiting for Michael to have to leave because then I've got no protection. And that's what occurred. As soon as Michael had to go to the airport, boom, the technical issues were resolved. And we're back on. But the lawyer from Naja, for whatever reason, asked me if I have any information, because at this point I've given evidence for the whole week, given evidence about the Nugget Awards, and basically just those 5 senior officers have said I'm a liar, it doesn't exist, nothing racist to see here. And it's been accepted that now that I'm a liar. One of the lawyers from Naja hit me up and goes, is there any more information that you have about that? And I was like, mate, I've got the certificates on me, or my lawyer has the certificates on it, some certificates. And then everyone just got like wigs out. The coroner's counsel assisting and the cops lawyer, they run out the door in cahoots with each other, stressing, because they didn't think I'd produced the actual evidence. All of a sudden, those certificates get shown to the lawyers. Stop. The coronial kind of gets stopped and we get sent away and to come back in a couple of months to give evidence again. Yeah. So I've already been in the box for 5 days. These guys have now called me a liar, committing it's a crime to write a false stat deck. We know this as police officers. And not only, like, again, it got mixed up with the whole idea of racism. And that was never my intent, because I have the same view that we have, that this is dark humor and these boys aren't actually racist. They've just said some
And
dumb shit.
They're not.
Exactly.
We know them.
Exactly.
They're not.
Exactly. They've just said some dumb shit.
Yeah.
But the fact that these 5 senior cops then lied on stat decks really caused it into a dramatic drama thing where it was focused on racism. And I really disagree with the whole idea of putting this umbrella of racism over this problem, because if you put the umbrella over it, then we can't actually resolve any of the little problems that we could. For example, the SOPs, fixing the station SOPs out bush. So there's literally concrete actions on for a situation to occur. So when an action does occur, such as a shooting, you know exactly what to do, who to call, what to say. From that, like, none of that got fixed. We don't have improved medical training. We don't have improved medical gear. None of that got fixed. No responsibility got put on offenders. No one said the eye of, hey, like, there's all these different subcultures in the NT. Maybe we should improve some of these subcultures. And for example, maybe this whole thing of, like, attacking women who speak out should stop. How do we stop that? None of that occurred. So it causes drama. So basically, we went away, got sent away. Maybe a couple of months later, we got called back. And the most telling thing was, because I obviously gave this evidence and my Sarge gave evidence, the IRT Sarge, who was ex-TIG, or is ex-TIG, he gave evidence to the same effect. He'd also tried to give evidence about actual, like, forward commanding, tactics, planning, and he was shut down immediately. He wasn't allowed to give that evidence for some reason, despite being an expert in it. But we get sent away. We come back a couple months later, and again, it was exceptionally telling that first couple of hours, because he went on in the box first, and you can see it in the transcript. It wasn't accepting that evidence and seeing what it meant. It was, how do we steer the shit back to where we wanted it in the first place? So it stopped being like, well, what has come from this evidence? Is there a normalisation of racial language or racist language in the NT police? I'd say there's a normalisation in the NT police or any police force and the military of crude language. As we said before, if there's a normalisation of it, your language becomes more crude in non-professional settings.
Well, fuck me dead, mate. We swear our asses off the whole way through this podcast.
Yeah,
exactly. And that's another thing. Like this, the fact that expert witnesses weren't called. And again, whose job is it to investigate this? The coroner and their counsel.
Yeah,
it's not my job. It's not my sergeant's job. We're witnesses, so we're not going to pay money to have experts come. Because another thing was put to me about your memory. And I've done a lot of reading on memory. I've done a lot of reading externally, but I'm not an expert. But I know that if I go through a critical incident, my memory is going to change over the period of the next few weeks, next couple of months. Your memory is going to change. You might start remembering things that you didn't remember initially. The body-worn video might actually spark your memory. And there's the new teachings actually counter the past teachings about not showing body-worn video. Yeah. Like, there's all these new teachings that are going on. So when I got asked specifically about, like, Walker's hand on my gun, I was, again, calm and confident about my answer, because I knew that, I was like, get a memory expert. I was like, I'm telling you this is what occurred with my memory.
Yeah.
And then I got attacked by the coroner's counsel for saying, well, why didn't you get a memory expert? And I'm like, mate, it's not my job. You're here to investigate. You're getting paid by the government. The government's footing this bill. I'm not getting paid. If you want me to do your job, I could do it a lot better than you. Not for $11 million that they spent it on. But so there was all that, like, lack of calling actual experts and just attacking. So we went back. Basically, they just steered the shit back, and they tried to attack us and say that we brought up this evidence just to kind of, like, be like, you know, you attacked us, so we're going to attack you, kind of thing. Did that for a couple of days, and that was that. The 5 cops with the evidence that was being produced, it's a fact, and I can guarantee you, I've got the evidence. I produced the evidence that they lied on a stat deck, and there's information to suggest that they corroborated with each other and others, which turns lying on a stat deck to conspiracy.
Yeah.
So, and again, I've got no qualms in saying they commit a crime and they've been covered up. I've got no qualms in saying it publicly. I've said it publicly before, and I can guarantee you I'm never going to get done for defamation. I'm never going to get done with a cease and desist. And I can say this all I want, because if the last thing they want is to end up in a court with me. But that got covered up. And that's just another example of how biased this whole process was and how it was accepted. One of the lead detectives against me in the case, it was during the coronial. So again, this dude's evidence has been utilised. The evidence he gathered, he was actually fired from the police force for impersonating a female detective on dating apps and engaging with men in the Darwin community and soliciting like sexual messages or images from them. He was fired from that, and he was actually charged, but the police suppressed the whole matter. And obviously the police have not suppressed, they've never suppressed. One of the debrief points from the coronial should have been, in the event of a shooting or a death in custody, do we suppress the identity of the police officer involved? And the answer is yes, you should, because that prevents the media narrative, the media dramatization. But we didn't have that discussion because, again, what's occurred, there's been another death in custody, and there's been the opportunity to suppress a cop's name, and they haven't. But in the case of a detective who's done all this work with the team, supported the investigation against me, his whole case was suppressed. The charges were suppressed. The situation, the outcome was suppressed. It was only that another police officer ended up being in court randomly and seeing him there on the day that it actually got made public. The police's argument was that they suppressed the case because it was you can suppress cases for involving sexual crimes, but he got charged for using a carriage service to harass. So he got the small. Basically, what I'm saying is he got looked after. The 5 dudes who lied on stat decks got looked after. This detective got looked after. If you were against me, you got looked after. If you weren't against me, if you were you're gonna just tell the truth, you got smashed. And you can see that in how the cross examinations occurred. So anyway, it all occurred exactly as I thought it would. Got yelled at by some nerds for a couple of weeks, and then they called me names. As you said, guess what? Sticks and stones can break my bones. Learned that in kindy.
Words don't
hurt. They spent $11 million trying to undo a lesson I learned in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And then we eventually got to the findings, and keep in mind the average cost of a coronial in the NT is $6,000. We get to the findings. The coroner decides to do it out in Yuendamu. She decides that she can't do it in the courtroom out there because it's attached to the police station. That was in the wrong message. So she does it out externally. She does it, sits in front of a flat. Have you guys seen the actual footage of it? Because I haven't read the report. I watched the coroner give her speech opening up the report for that hour, and that's all I needed to see. Because I think the speech went for an hour, and for 50 minutes of it, it was just name calling me, basically. But she's done it in front of the flag, and I don't think the media at the time realised what that flag was, but because they weren't paying attention. This flag that she sat in front of, that was put up while she was setting up, it's for one of the parties involved that have set up their own little activist group who's made a number of demands. They've got a website and everything. A couple of the demands are this: that I need to be criminally retried, which we know can't be done.
Yeah.
And one of the points that I missed was this. So we know that the coronial can't, because I've been cleared of a crime, I can't get redone for that. We know that the criminal trial cleared me of they said they never focused on the first shot because they said it was justified. But then I've been cleared of the second and third shot. So technically I haven't been cleared of the first shot because it's never been truly tested. So the coroner was real cheeky in the way she talked by saying that, kind of leaving it open, that maybe because I've been cleared of the second and third shots, maybe I haven't been cleared of the first shot. So maybe we can address the first shot. That's why the evidence of the trial from the police as well, that I was given permission to enter the house, which was the police's evidence in the trial, wasn't accepted in the coronial, and the coronial re-examined that and decided that I wasn't given permission, despite the police evidence and the DPP evidence being contrary. So yeah, we get to the coroner finally giving her findings. She sits in front of this flag, supporting basically this party that wants me to be speared and wants me to be criminally retried. Gives her findings exactly as we expected 3 years prior. That basically I'm a racist bad cop, shouldn't have been there, blah, blah, blah. Cost over $11 million to do that, and again, the average coronial cost is $6,000, and the community is in a worse off place. The police force is in a worse off place. Crimes being committed by police during the process, and they've been allowed to occur, and that's where we are now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a costly report into name calling in my view.
So, mate, obviously we could go on about how we could push back through this, but you said something on the Zero Limits podcast that really resonated with me, and I wanted to bring it up again because there's processes and then there's human survival. You mentioned the snake in the shed. Yeah. So a snake in a shed can slither around and around and then find a handsaw, and it can slither around the handsaw and find that it's hurting it. So what it does is it naturally wants to squeeze and fight against what's hurting it. So it squeezes harder and harder and harder. And the harder it squeezes, the more the saw bites into it. And that makes it angrier. So it squeezes harder again. It keeps squeezing and it keeps squeezing. And eventually it cuts itself in half. So I've got a term I like to use. It's called brain poison. So picture you're holding a cup full of poison and you're holding it out in front of you. If you drink the cup, it's poisonous. It's going to kill you. But holding it is stressful. It makes your arm weak, and you hold it for hours, and you keep holding this glass, and it's just, this bastard's, this bloody glass, it's so heavy, I just hate this glass. If you just put the glass on the table, it's not heavy anymore. And I think you're one of the most inspirational people I've ever met when it comes to resilience, because I don't think I could have dealt with that. I don't think I would have had the moral strength to stay there knowing I was right with all these forces against me. I just think I would have lost trust in things. I'm a trusting guy. I know I'm an ex-copper. I did a lot of things with a lot of people. Never trusted anybody, but I trust agencies. I trust, the big things in society. You grow up in life with a trust of things. That yes, it's okay. Things go bad, but it'll be okay. And that resonated with me what you said on that, because you got to put that glass down, otherwise it's going to kill you. So I think
100%.
Mate, the thing is, you could push back, you could go back again and go get new teams to go back through all this stuff, and it's just so terrible, and it just breaks my heart. And the injustice of it is that you get your name thrown all around the place as this racist, but absolutely, which is just bullshit. It's just wrong. They are incorrect. It's like they're all overpaid to do nothing. They haven't achieved a damn thing. What I love is you said it was a big debrief. Well, that's exactly what a coronial inquest is. It's an after-action report or an after-action review that goes back through, analyses what happened, what did we do well, what did we do poorly, what can we do in the future to prevent this occurring. It's 101 for minimal police training, for constables on the ground, for junior firefighters, for junior ambulance officers, for military. You always do an after-action review to improve. It's constant improvement. And you've just summed it up perfectly. None of that occurred. There was no, if we ever have to take out a high-risk offender. Okay, what is a high-risk offender? Well, anyone who's done this to a copper is a high-risk offender. All right, no worries. So 90% of the offenders in the Northern Territory are now high-risk offenders, so TRG has to roll out to 90% of the jobs that police go to. Yeah. It's only through the grace of God that no one dies most of the time we're in these jobs anyway. It's pure ass a lot of the time. Mate, the amount of violence that we've spoken about, that, me and Schultzy have spoken about through the podcast that we dealt with, the amount of violence you saw, not from us, coming at us. Yeah. It was luck. There was so much luck involved that more people weren't killed or injured with interactions with police. And lots are injured. Assaults against police. Police get assaulted daily in the Northern Territory.
Yeah.
Daily. I got spat on so many times I can't remember. I've been punched, kicked, bashed, not bashed. I haven't been pinned down and flogged, but I've certainly been injured.
But a lot of cops have. But
lots of cops have been very seriously assaulted. It happens daily. No mention of that. So talk of responding to a very stressful job. It's a job that don't get me wrong, we loved it for a reason, because there's something about danger. There's something about it's an exciting job. You're with your crew, you've got a team, you're going out to achieve something. There's an attractive. It's a primal attractiveness for people to want to be engaged in things that have got an element of danger.
It's about honour.
I was going to say the exact same thing. It's an honourable. It's an honourable profession.
Yeah,
It
At
is.
its core, it's an honourable profession.
and look, Zach, I'm gonna tell you a bit of a story here. I got a complaint against me many years ago. Um, I went to an incident where I've been to 6 times previous in the day, and I got a complaint put against me because basically Aboriginal communities, they are what they are. There's families that fight against each other all the time, and they're bashing each other and all that sort of thing. And anyway, I go out. The 6th time I've actually attended this in that one day, I've rocked up and I've said, right, I've had enough of this, because a lot of time you sit there and go, it's just infighting and all that sort of thing. There's no offences being committed technically, so you just write it off. Anyway, I said, no, that's it. She's getting arrested, and I've turned to the rest of them who are acting up just stupidly, and I've gone, you're acting like a bunch of Neanderthals. And why I said that, they were hitting each other over the head with sticks. There was no technical term of race. There was no, I never said anything about Aboriginal, black fella, white fella, Asian. I said, you are acting like a bunch of Neanderthals by hitting each other over the head with like fucking sticks. Because that is Neanderthal behaviour. That is what you do. Anyway, I got this complaint put against me internally. And anyway, they went out to investigate, and they spoke to the elders. They spoke to the Aboriginals that were involved, and they said, no. They said, we did not find Ben to be racial. They said he was angry, and they said rightly so. The only thing they complained about was I said fuck. But they said, no, he was right. He said exactly right. But this still complaint, it went through PCSE. I never even got told about it. They investigated without my knowing. I was a sergeant of the station. And I'm sitting there going, well, hold on. The blackfellas out there, the Aboriginals who I worked with constantly, backed me. How am I seen to be racist? Because I mentioned you're acting like. Because that's what they're acting like. But then you get some do-gooder, say Armitage, that sit there going, you're being a fucking racist. No, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm saying.
That was a funny thing. As in one of my text messages, nothing about any actual situation, I mentioned to one of the boys, I mentioned the word Neanderthal in conversation. And every single lawyer there, every single white lawyer there starts hitting me up going, you're a racist. You're calling Indigenous Neanderthal. I'm like, what? Where in that message am I talking about Neanderthals? I was like, if you actually, and this is the point where you play like the everything, like the issue with playing like the everything is racist game. Because if you play that game, everything's fucking racist.
Yeah.
So if you come at me and say, I've said the word Neanderthal, and you just assume I'm talking about Indigenous, or maybe in your head, when you hear that word, you connect the two. Maybe you're the racist. But that's the issue with playing the everything is racist game. When you think you're too smart for the shoes you wear and your little jacket you wear every day in court.
Exactly.
And they come up against someone who's actually willing to not crumble under their little fancy words.
If there's white people hitting each other over the head with sticks, I've actually called a white person before a Neanderthal because he blew his bloody snotty nose, and threw it out the window of the car we're driving along. He was white.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. In one of the they try to put tendency evidence against me in their crim trial, and then that tendency evidence is basically, for the people listening, is I'm going to say super layman's term. It's trying to use examples of similar behaviour before to shine a light on the behaviour you've shown now. I had never been stabbed by an offender before in the police force, so there was no tendency evidence allowed in the criminal trial because it has to be very, very specific. But they initially put forward 5 instances of use of force examples where their argument was that I'd had a tendency to use excessive force against Indigenous males, just assuming that all the offenders I dealt with were Indigenous. One of the offenders in there was white. So then we went, so they removed it. They removed that one. But we said, whoa. You've had five points of believing that there's excessive use of force. Now, if you look at statistically, and we had the actual stats, but like 95% of the people that I deal with are Indigenous. So it should be 9-1 or 9.5 to 1, not 4 to 1. A 4 to 1 stat shows that I'm actually showing more potential excessive use of force against white people. So the stats actually show, if we're going to deal with evidence, and we should be dealing with evidence,
Of course,
even though this tenancy evidence was rubbish, the tenancy evidence by the cops showed, but their own, like, they just assumed every offender was Indigenous. So it's just playing that everything is racist, and it's just such a dumb, low-level game to play that doesn't achieve anything. But that's what they played, and that's why the coronial achieved nothing.
That's right.
Except for causing more damage. And I think what we mentioned before was, like, I think it is lucky it was me dealing with it, because I have some people might call it arrogant, but thank fuck I've got that arrogance to get through what I have for the last 6 years and come out still good. And yeah,
you're still alive, mate. You're still alive.
And look, a lot of it, I had real bad days. I had real bad weeks. I had real bad time, and it hurt, and I didn't see the point of getting up at the end at some days, but I had the right mentality to get through it all, because a number of other cops, if they went through it, they would have necked themselves.
I guarantee.
And a number of cops now, here's the dangerous thing. I know it, and I'm confident enough to say that my skills, especially at that time, were a lot higher than most cops in those kind of situations. A lot higher. You only have to put me against the 2 boys involved in the acid incident to show the difference. Look at the use of force scenarios that you use, like the videos in the annual requals of, like, what not to do versus the shooting versus my use of quals. I was very competent and very capable in physical combat.
Yeah.
But again, if you put a normal cop in that situation, there's going to be an element of human error. The general police force know this, especially the cops that worked with me. They know that most cops in a similar situation will not be able to perform to as high of a standard. Some can, for sure. Most can't, which is fine, but there's going to be human error. Now, if you have human error, and if you're judged to the same standard that I was judged, here's the fear. Are you either going to, like, doubt yourself and get killed, or perform poorly because you're wigging out, or not perform as well as you could because you're scared of the outcome, get killed, or are you going to do the best you can and still end up in jail?
Yeah.
So that's what I think. And again, that was just reinforced by the coronial, because now cops are going, well, 1, I don't want to go through the trial process, but 2, I don't want my whole life torn apart, and I don't want to deal with the embarrassment. I don't want to deal with the headlines. I don't want to deal with this. So the police force, and again, this was all pushed by the NT police executive and accepted by the coroner and used by the coroner and the other most of the legal parties involved. And that's what it is. It's damage to the police force. And I think the biggest thing we come back to is that, like, I'm good. I'm fine. Yeah, it sucked, but it's over now.
Yeah.
And as you said, Damo, I can put that glass down. I had to carry it some days. When every day I went into the witness box, I had to pick it up and carry it, and it got heavy and it got boring. But then I don't have to carry that around no more. I can put that down.
Yeah.
But the cops on the street that have to carry this fear now, and this knowledge that the executive, who are the same cops there now, the charging officer that charged me despite having a massive conflict of interest with the family, and it had talked to the family prior to charging me. And when the prosecuting cop who should have charged me, that was his position at the time, he refused to charge me. This other cop got involved and he charged me for murder despite having the conflict of interest. He is now the commissioner of police, despite the ex-commissioner of police getting fired for having a conflict of interest in assisting a mate getting hired. This other cop who had a conflict of interest in charging a cop for murder despite being friends and family members with the family of the deceased, he's now the commissioner. So the cops on the ground in the NT, they have to carry around this fear every day. And as we've said before, I feel for them 100%. They unfortunately have to just be good enough at their job that if this shit rears its head, they come out the other end fine and they can deal with all the judgment. But the civilians in the NT, they're the ones that suffer. And the victims of crime are the ones that suffer. So that's what I keep we really need to get back to, like, who cares about what happened to me because it's happening to other cops? I'm strong enough to deal with it. What about the victims of crime? What about the women and children, like, that are suffering because cops can't do their job in the NT?
Yeah.
That's what I think is the issue. So
Yeah, mate. So that, yeah, a big point there was that the fact that the police on the ground, you can never not have police. I've said this a couple of times. The standard that a 23-year-old constable is held to on the ground is higher than a Supreme Court judge. They are held to a higher standard. They're paid a fraction of the amount of money, but they are held to a standard. So I always did, and I've mentioned this on a number of our episodes and another podcast, where people in an appeals court will go, yes, His Honour erred when doing this. And it's like, well, no, hang on. His Honour made a catastrophic mistake here. And a 23-year-old constable on the ground with nowhere near the life experience, absolutely nowhere near the legal knowledge or whatever else that they've received after years, probably a doctorate in legal knowledge of law, made a split-second decision that actually had life and death consequences, or significant injury consequences, or whatever else. They've made a split-second decision under duress. They're held to the highest standard, yet a Supreme Court judge isn't. Then there's a lot more consequence, I would add, at the top. And the other thing I'd like to throw in there, just while I remember it, is that I wonder if Libby Armitage has ever pushed on the chest of an Indigenous woman bleeding out while you're doing CPR on her. I don't think so.
Well, that's the thing. There's even things that she said, like, for example, that, but not even as drastic. We've discussed it before. You're trained, if your mate gets injured, for example, shot, stabbed, you need to get him to safety. You're dragging him. You're grabbing him by the vest or grabbing him on the armpit, and you're dragging him. Libby Armitage said this one thing funny as. She goes, it takes the exact same amount of time to drag someone from one place to another than it does to pick someone up and move them. And I was like, how can you say that when, Libby, I guarantee you've never dragged someone from one place to the other. You've never picked someone up from one place. So show us. Show me. If this is a debrief, show me how to do it. They had there's other stuff like that, but she's not done that. She's not, and again, there was all these, okay, I'm a racist because I sent one text. But again, you have all this evidence about contradicting evidence but they just don't use it because we've talked about it. Like, the stuff we've done, the stuff we put ourselves through, the stuff we carry from trying to help people, especially the kids and the women in the NT, most of whom just happen to be Indigenous that we're dealing with. Man, like, the relationships you make with these people are actual real relationships that you kind of like. Yeah. Because if I went back to Alice Springs now, fucking oath, there'd be some people that don't know me that'd be yelling and gobbing off. Same as when I went back to Darwin. Some would love me, some would be yelling at me. But there would be people that I've helped and dealt with over and over in Alice Springs that I could go up right now and have a real, because I've helped their daughter escape a situation that she couldn't escape. And I've actually helped her. Or I've, helped their kids or protected the kids from the parents or done this. And most of us, the good cops, have done that.
Yeah.
But these do-gooders that sit behind their bench, and I think they do think they're doing the right thing, but they are wrong, and they have no idea about the damage they're causing.
Unless you've been in that experience, you cannot judge. I had an elder out at Millingimby, and she made me, because I helped her daughter through a domestic violence incident, and which continued after her death, or even after I left the police. And she made me promise that I would come to her funeral because she was dying of cancer. She said, will you please honour me, because the way you've helped my family and my daughter in domestic violence. And she was an elder. She worked in the clinic. Excellent, lovely lady. Unfortunately, I never got to go. I will go to her gravesite. That's one thing I will do. Because unfortunately, her daughter then, after I left, got basically in Darwin, deprived from this person that I was protecting her from, deprived of her liberty, broken bones, raped, and then basically the guy got away because the mother that said I'd go to her funeral, she died. So the whole support network for that poor woman, an Indigenous woman, was gone.
Yep.
Yeah, it's fucking
And
rough, eh?
and I sorry,
going, mate.
Damo, just I, I did that. Like this is going over years. I did this sort of stuff, and yet you want to call me a racist?
Yeah.
Well, sorry, I was helping. I actually dedicated my life, and I will promise I will go to her gravesite because it's an honour for me
Yeah.
because she asked me. And yet, some people, will paint me as a
Yeah.
racist. Well, no, fuck off.
Mate,
Yeah.
I remember the Large Armani store. We'd have had a hell of a night. We'd still be on duty. It'd be 9 o'clock in the morning. We'd be like, oh, man, I got to go and get a feed and a bloody iced coffee. You want something? And go down to the shop. And all the kids would be lined up. The school kids would all be lined up to go and get their food. They'd go in and get food from the shop and they'd all go back to school. They'd walk in a big line and the teacher takes them down and back. We happened to pull up while they were at the front. So there was a picture, and I wish I could find it. I have no idea where it is, but as I walked up there, I know Damo is not a policing term, but they called me Barb or whatever it was. It might have been, I can't remember. But they all knew my name, and they all ran up, and I've got this picture of me on my knees cuddling about 20 little tiny Aboriginal children with black faces and white faces.
Yeah.
They just loved us because we were nice to them. We'd kick around, we were always there. It's like, Jesus Christ, if I was racist, would I do that?
And there was this weird push by the coroner.
Yeah.
There was this weird push by the coroner, but also by the NT police executive that it was like wrong to be passionate about the job. And I think the coroner even mentioned it because I didn't read her findings because I couldn't, I'm not going to waste my time reading. I watched that hour speech while I was doing work, in the background, and that was enough for me to realize what was going to come. But I know some of the boys have sent me paragraphs here and there. And I know that's one weird point that apparently she said. I've seen the paragraph, and I'm not going to say it correctly, but it's along the lines of something like that Zach had this. He had this belief that this strong belief or strong anti-domestic violence stance, because a lot of the guys that I'd used force against it, the allegations came of excessive force, and the excessive force that she found was just because some cop in the box was like, oh yeah, even though that's been cleared 3 times, I think that's, looking at it now, when I'm in the box and it's super obvious what you want me to say, I think that's excessive. That's where it came from.
Every single one of us got it.
Exactly. We all know what the correct answer is. But it was something about again, it was weird. It was about how the river, they used that as a negative against me. It was like my passion for anti-domestic violence was a negative thing because a lot of the guys, because I think in all the use of force video that they brought up, I think I'd only raised my voice twice. One when it was like a home invasion where a dude had broken into a house with a knife, or allegedly with a knife, and was trying to kill the homeowner. And I dropped him and he didn't get on the ground, so I said, get on the fucking ground. And they assumed that the use of force guys would all say that was an excessive use, but everyone cleared me. So then the next issue became, well, Zach said, fuck. That could have been trauma. That could have been traumatizing for a kid that wasn't there, And I'm like, shut the fuck up, you fucking lawyer scum.
I hear that every day.
Exactly. So a dude just breaks into your house with a knife trying to kill your dad. That's not traumatizing, but I said get on the fucking ground to the offender that much. Right. Shut the fuck up, you lawyer scum. So then there was a couple of instances where I was used force against domestic violence offenders who had just been in the process, or I'd literally witnessed bashing their women. Again, cleared of the use of force, but they had issues with. So she had an issue with me being passionate against domestic violence offenders, and I was 100%. And I tried to answer this question, and they stopped me for some reason because they're trying to paint me out as be violent this, and I will not shy away from it. I'm truthful about it. If you're a domestic violence offender, if you're a rapist, if you're a pedophile, and you resist me, I want you to resist me. Please don't come peacefully. I want to fucking hurt you.
Yeah.
If you don't resist me, I'm gonna arrest you lawfully and peacefully, as is my job.
Yeah.
But if you resist me, I will fuck you up legally using the minimum use of force, and I want you to suffer because you're about to go to jail where you're going to get 3 meals a day. You're probably going to get a tiny sentencing from the judge, and if you don't feel that, I think there's something wrong with you. And most likely, most people do feel that, and they're just too afraid to admit it, especially in court. But I wasn't. But then they have this weird thing where it's like a bad thing that I don't like domestic violence offenders. I was like, you guys champion like anti-domestic violence, but really you just like martyr domestic violence offenders and disempower domestic violence victims. Because we're the ones out there trying to protect the women and the kids, and this, it's just weird. It's all reversed. It's all flipped. It's all them just saying, them and the cops are saying pretty words, just like thinking they're the right things to say. But in actual truth, I found another good quote. Last time we said something about like something like mercy to the guilty is like punishment to the innocent or something like that.
Yes.
I saw another one, and it was something like harshness in order to protect innocent is correct, but like meekness in order to defend the guilty is like not correct or something like that. So like we corrected innocent sometimes in harsh ways. That's a good thing. That's not wrong. So I think there's this idea with the culture. It's just shifting like this, saying that the warrior culture is wrong and we should all be guardians. We should be both, but if it calls time to be a warrior, fucking be a warrior.
Mate, so I love, there's a saying getting around, and I love it because it's so correct, and I didn't quote it. I didn't coin it, sorry. But if you're not dangerous, you are harmless. You're harmless. Valor and actual value, I should say, and true honor comes from being very capable of extreme violence and extreme danger, but never using it unless you absolutely need to, because you've got the capability, but you don't use it. That's honor. If you don't have the capability, you're just going bah in the paddock.
Exactly. Well, they say a harmless man is not a good man. A harmless man is not a good man. And that's why I see the people judging me are harmless.
Yes.
They wear their suits and ties, or they're in their cop uniforms, but they're useless. They are harmless. They're the same people we see that videotape women getting bashed for 5 minutes and scream at them to stop and stop and stop. But they don't step in. We all three of us could sort that situation out in 2 seconds.
Absolutely.
And what I think, like I said before, there was a job recently in Alice Springs where something crazy like 10 to 15 people were arrested for beating a 16-year-old girl in public and stripping her naked and beating her. And the main offender, who was an adult, got 3 weeks locked up and got released by the judge. And there's images of it. Obviously, that's blurred for the media, as it should be. But can you imagine in a normal city, a 16-year-old girl getting bashed by a group, stripped naked and videoed and bashed by adults and teenagers, and then the main offender getting 3 weeks locked up and the judge releasing that offender after 3 weeks go going, oh, the watch house is really boring because the prisons are over full, so you're in the watch house. Yeah, you got some people there to hang out with. You get 3 meals a day. You got TV. It's pretty gross, but so get 3 weeks and be free. And then this girl, a normal 16-year-old girl is getting she's traumatized for life.
Absolutely.
For life.
Absolutely.
Yes. But then you're going to expect this 16-year-old girl who was Indigenous, what the fuck? For her, and that's a normal situation. Like, that's normalized in the NT.
Yeah.
And fuck, I feel anger for that. I want to go slap the shit out of those women offenders involved. I don't care if they're a woman, that's how I feel. And if I was a cop still and I was to arrest them and they didn't resist me, I would arrest them lawfully with no force. Yeah. But it's just feelings. We're allowed to talk about feelings, and if you don't have those feelings, I think there's something wrong with you.
Well, you're not human. You don't have those feelings. You're not human.
I'm going to tell a bit of a story here. So when I was in Catherine, I was driving home. I was off duty, and it was coming in the evening. I'm driving back, and anyway, I saw an Indigenous couple walking along the side of the road, and I thought, when I looked at it, I thought there's something funny going on there. But anyway, as I drove past, I thought I'll just check in my revision mirror because I just thought there was something going on. This guy was reaching out to the woman. Anyway, by the time when I looked in my revision mirror, he's got her on the ground. He's flogging the absolute fuck out of her. Anyway, I've stopped. I'm off duty. I've got no accrued, nothing. Turned around, drove back. Anyway, I pulled up. And I said, basically identify myself. I'm police, blah, blah, blah. Fucking rah, rah. And I said, you get down on the ground. And she's sitting there saying to me, oh, he didn't do nothing. I said, fuck off. I saw it. I saw what happened in my revision mirror. He was flogging the shit out of you. She's trying to defend him. Anyway, he kind of shaped up to me. And I turned around to him. I said, do you know what? You're under arrest. If you give me the green light, there was nothing pleasure me more than fucking you up. I said, sit the fuck down. And he just looked at me and he's going, boom, sat down. That's eliminating use of force.
Yeah.
I told him what the consequences were going to be.
Yeah.
Mate, I'm going to drop you on the head. Nothing will pleasure me more than beating the fuck out of you.
Yeah.
Because that's what he understands.
It's just honest. And if we actually have honest conversations, like within the police force, I think the police force could improve. But if you're going to pretend, like say you've got a, like moving forward and you actually have a bunch of police recruits, it does them no favors to pretend that they should not feel these feelings.
Yeah.
But if you're going to like talk about these feelings and go like, hey, you're going to feel this. That's okay. Here's some outlets. Here's some healthy outlets. Because if you don't want us obviously texting bad words to each other, let's create some healthy outlets. Let's move, like how are we going to move forward? But by having this fake bullshit that I think the NT police have and probably the police forces around Australia have and the justice systems have right now, it doesn't help anyone. And I think we all can agree it's just going down the drain. Everything's going down the drain. But who knows how it's going to get fixed, because a lot of the senior officers who would have been ideal to train up, the junior officers, they're the ones that are smart enough to either leave or put themselves in a position where they're not on the street. So these junior officers are being brought in. Who knows who's teaching them or how they're getting taught, like learning, or who knows what it's like, because from the outlook looking in, not being in the NT anymore, crime soaring, victims are suffering.
Yeah.
The government's being hell weird. But I don't know. I think the cops in Australia, I think we've said it the whole time, the cops in Australia, especially because we can talk about that because we're Australian cops, are so behind the times in regard to training and education. And we keep doing the same shit over and over and not upskilling. I think the cops really need to upskill. And I think the things we're willing to talk about, because I think we've seen it before. I don't see anyone else talking about this in Australia. I think they talk about safe things. Like, well, if you're willing to have these conversations, then that maybe you can improve the police force.
And also reducing the amount of force used. All I said
Exactly.
I did not have to lay hands on him. I did not have to do anything. He sat down and complied as soon as I said that. Because there's one thing he understands, unfortunately, and people don't see this, is violence.
Yeah,
exactly. And that was the same. Like that was the same as me when I was younger. When I was 18, I got put in the drunk cage just for being drunk. It wasn't really an arrest. It was a PC, whatever you call it, in Canberra. And the cops smashed me because I was being a fuckwit. On the piss, 18, being a dickhead. And I got smacked fair and square. Like, broke my tooth, was sore and sorry the next day. And guess what? I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
But if I had gotten like a, administrative punishment, which followed me, like, I got lucky because I didn't get an administrative punishment. But I learned the same way at that time. And still to this day, if I do something and get smacked in the mouth, I learn. We're adults. We're males, and that's how we learned when we were younger. Like, it's what you learn in the schoolyard. If you like talk, you're testing yourself with other kids. You're testing where's the line, and if I step over this line, I get smacked in the mouth. And that's where you learn. And I think that's getting probably taken away from kids these days as well, unfortunately.
Oh yeah,
because you don't learn where the line is, so you don't get smacked in the mouth. So then you become an adult, and you get a metaphorical smack in the mouth. First time you ever had one. Yeah. And you've never felt it before. You crumble. Yeah. Because you haven't had it. But I see no issue with exactly what you said, Schultzy. Like, letting someone know you're strong like that stops you from... And being confident in yourself. Which you're so scared that you don't attend. You don't turn around because you're scared. That woman might get killed or just severely hurt. You turn around and you do the old do-gooder thing and you go, oh, please stop. We're all family. We're all sons and daughters and lovers, and the woman. You just watch the woman get bashed.
Yeah.
But if you rock up,
you're
and
going to
you are
watch a woman
strong.
get bashed, and then you're next. Yeah.
Exactly. Or you rock up and you deal with it, and you let him know what you're going to do if he doesn't do something, and he gets on the ground, or he has a crack and you win the fight, as you should.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, that's it. Look, unfortunately, people talk about human nature, but there's also animal nature. All right, they respect a bigger, harsher person. That's what we are. We step in to protect the vulnerable.
Exactly, and that's why I think cops need to be held to a higher standard. I just think the standard is wrong at the moment.
Yeah.
Like the standard should be. That's why I didn't have an issue with. Like one of the things that protected me. People might call it arrogance, but I have strong views. I think we share them. I think it's obvious that we all share them. Is that exactly what you said before, Barbs, that being a harmless man does not make you a good man. Being a dangerous man and controlling it makes you a good man. And I was like, okay, I can be dangerous, but I'm in control. Whereas all these people judging me are harmless. They're pathetic, harmless humans who think they're something other than what they are. So I was kind of like, I know this about myself. And I'm like, why should I care what they say? It's like the old school, like the kids stuff where we get lost on it, where so many cops, even some of the good boys and stuff in the coronial, they really got affected by the cross-examination, by the words and stuff like that, and the pressure put on. And it really does suck, but you can see how much that affects them. And it just shows how much damage the police force can do, because you're like, man, like, we have seen worse days. We've seen way worse days, and sitting in a box and getting like talked at.
Yeah.
But that then becomes this whole real big thing. And I just think, like, I think I said it in the Zero Limits thing as well. I think I said, like, this big thing, like, it's not wrong to be strong. And look, one of the things that I grew up with, because again, like Schultzy, we grew up boxing, and this one of the best boxers in history, who is a piece of shit human, but is an amazing boxer, Floyd Mayweather.
Yep.
And he used to say, I used to watch him. I just used to watch hours of him fighting and training and stuff. And one of the things he would say, he would just be like this, like arrogant boxer, world champ. And he would just say, if you say fuck me, I say fuck you. Like if you don't like me, I don't like you. Yeah. And there is kind of it's like a self-defense mechanism. Like you can like lean on to, like if you care about what people think, fuck. It's like old cliches, like control what you can control. But like I like had these people that I looked up to. One of that, not him as a human, him's capabilities, some things about him, but some of those little like sayings like that, you just got to hold on to them. I think when it all gets too crazy, and that's one of the reasons why the trial and the coronial never really got to the nitty gritty truth about what occurred, because I think the NT police, the coroner, they came at me fighting. So I immediately was like, we're going to fight.
Yeah, that's
right.
But
if you came at me, because if you fight me, all I can do is fight back. It's all I know.
Yep.
But if you come at me and you're like, hey, we're going to figure what shit out. If I fucked up, I'll own it. And I'll say, hey, I fucked up. I should have done something better. I'm willing to do that. But if you come out and just fight me, of course, I'm going to just fight you. So it was never really, there's been no authentic investigation. So it just means that there's no justice, there's no real true closing the door on this chapter for the family, for the community. But that's not the moment.
There's a very good point there, mate. We're not violent people. Like, you know, if I was a violent person, when that guy sat down, I would have flogged him. And do you know what? I could have justified it in the use of force. But did I? No, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't need to. All I needed to do was the action of the arrest to protect who that woman now is thankful because I stepped in. So
I think you see that. I think we see that with some cops who are less confident in their ability. And this is why I say like all cops should be, we should do more training. You should be more capable, because the cops that are less capable often act out of fear or panic. And then that might actually affect the ego. So if you are capable and you're like confident in your abilities, you're not going to act out of ego. If you've had your head punched in the gym enough, you're going to realize that you don't want to get punched. You don't want to get in a fight, because win or lose, you're going to get hurt. Yeah, but the cops who haven't really had that, like I've seen cops that, when the cuffs go on, then they start getting tough. And I'm
Yeah, I
like,
don't
and we've all seen that. You go, you're not the right in the right mindset. You haven't had the experience. But if you had the experience, like so, this little cop, like put cuffs on someone. This is just a hypothetical, and then you arc up and start being a tough boy. I see that, and I'm like, mate, you need to come to the boxing gym and learn about yourself, because the best way to learn who someone is jump in the ring with them. Yeah, and learn who yourself is, and then you can start, like, when you know who you are, where you're at, then you can start improving yourself. But there's a lot of cops out there that are, I think the more capable you can be, the more capable of violence you can be, that is actually a beneficial thing for everyone, yourself and offenders and victims, because it's the ones who aren't capable, who are acting out of ego or fear or whatever. They're the ones that cause issues.
Well,
Mate, I'll just give you an operational example of that. So you look at lots of pub fights where people are being arrested, and it's a big, sloppy, horrible mess. I was so lucky when I was running. I was a sergeant in City Safe in Darwin, and I had such a capable crew. So I had a bloke next to me who was just a weapon, Newcastle boy, X3 RAR, real tough dude.
Yeah.
He was a bloody good legend. I had a bloke in the back who at that stage is now, as far as I'm aware, he's still TRG, or he might have moved on, but he was TRG qualified at that point. And we were happy-go-lucky. We were just happy, mixing it with the punters. We were confident enough in the crowd that we were okay. When a job was on, we had a violent offender or something outside the pubs, it was just slap bang, straight to the ground, handcuffed, very rapid, so it was all done. And then it was, all right, brother, here's what's going to happen, man. You're going to stand up, we're going to walk over the stage, bro. And it de-escalated everything. It was a moment of, it wasn't even violent. It was just a rapid, intense, specific, and competent. I love it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Straight to the ground, all done. Handcuff finished. No impact, no violence. A very small, very violent episode, and then done. And
it can look violent, but it's safe. It's safe,
and then
it's safe.
It's extremely safe. So we get into the back of the cage. 9 times out of 10, we uncuffed them.
Yeah.
We just go, right, bro. If we uncuff you, you're sweet. You're going to turn around, jump in. You're going up the watch house. Here's what's going to happen. Happy days? Yeah, no worries, man. Yep, okay. Happy days, mate. Jump in for me.
Exactly.
And just firm, just the whole time, just firm. Like, you happy, mate? All right, sweet, bro. We'll see you up there. And then don't get me wrong. Situationally aware. You're watching hands. You're watching legs. You're watching for tension. You're all over that. But your words are calm. But your demeanour is extremely confident. And as a result, they just go, yeah, my night's finished. I'm done. There's no more fight. These guys mean business. And it reduces risk.
It's the same thing those studies showed with that when they asked I think the serial rapists and criminals over in the US, they interviewed them and said, how did you pick your victims? And they just said, I looked for the people that didn't look strong, who didn't look well kept, who looked incompetent, who looked weak. That's who I targeted. So it's just human nature, and we are all just animals, so it's the same thing. But yeah, boys, we can go on forever. Well, I've taken your time up for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I'm sorry. We can go. We just keep talking shit for ages. Summary of the episode, I guess, is that the coronial spent $11 million to call people names.
Yes.
Well, mate, I think we've backed that up. And I'll just mention one thing. I work with one cop in particular. I won't mention names. They come to work and go, I want to catch a child sex offender. And I go, who actually comes to work wanting to catch that? Because that means there's a victim. So there's obviously and the same person, I arrested this DV offender once, and with her. And anyway, big guy, massive guy. He was compliant. He'd flogged his wife, and we were escorting him to the cage. And she's in his ear. You're nothing but useless. You're a fucking piece of shit. Rah rah. Anyway, I never said anything. Anyway, of course, he's turned around and hit her because that's his primal instinct. I've ended up with a fight with this guy, and we've wrestled him. Or I have. Sorry, I got in a full-on fist fight with this guy. Anyway, the only thing she did was open the cage, and I threw him in. Basically, close the cage. She's turned to me and she goes, "Oh, thanks, I can't fight very well." And I said, "Well, don't fucking fight."
Insane. Don't start a fight.
Exactly. So that the problem with that is she's escalating the use of force. I have a massive issue with that.
Yeah,
I didn't want to.
agree.
He was compliant. He listened. He was going to the cage. He knew he was under arrest. Do not put me in this position where I have to escalate my use of force.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you, brother. We had a similar job. So I was working with a guy down in Alice, and his issue. He was a good cop, completely by the book, but he was probably a bit too timid. So he worked with me, and he was a senior to me, but we worked because he's just so busy. You get such different experience levels, and I think he came from out of Alice, so then he got come to. So even though he was in the job longer, he probably had attended less jobs and especially less time in Alice. So he was a bit too timid. And he started working with us, and we were just trying to get him to be a bit more confident, a bit more capable. And I remember the time when he, similar thing, but nearly opposite. We attended a job, a woman drunk off her head, just throwing rocks at all the houses in the street. Nice street. She's just drunk off her head at 2 a.m. And her husband was there drunk as well, but he was not throwing rocks. So she's the one that has to get locked up. But it's kind of one of those nights. You rock up, you're like, Mrs. Please stop throwing rocks at people's property. Please just stop. This does not need to be a thing. And she was just causing dramas. And it gets to the point where we're trying to put her in the cage, but we can't be bothered kind of thing. We just want her in the cage with no issues. But she is rubbing everyone up the wrong way. She is being a pest beyond pest. Gets to the point where her husband actually grabs her, picks her up, throws her in the cage himself. And I was in my head, I'm like, thank you, my sir. You're my man. That means I don't have to do a use of force. And then this offside of my partner, he grabs the dude and he slaps him. And I was like, no. I was like, I love your energy, but wrong time. I was like, no, he helped us. I was like, he just made our job easier. It's all good. But yeah, when people are just I don't know, it's a hard job, right? It's a hard job, but it's not normal. Most people go to work and they push paper. We go to work and you might get in a fist fight. It's just a hard job. So that's why I think everyone just needs to
throw a coffee. You might throw a coffee out the window and then be doing CPR on someone in the middle of nowhere and then go back.
Exactly.
It's just, this is the thing. This is the whole purpose of why we even talk. It's because it's the normalization. The people wearing that uniform are human. They're just people, the same as you, the same as anyone listening. There is no difference. Yeah, sure, bit of training, bit of experience. What seems extreme becomes normal, but it doesn't help. It doesn't. It's not good for you.
It's a weird job.
So I think that's the point. But yeah, you're right, boys. We could go on for a while. We're at nearly 2.5 hours, and
I can't believe we've gone that long.
We've covered off on the coronial.
It's our weekly bro time. It's nice now. We're gonna have to keep on it.
It is. I think you might have to make random appearances, mate.
I'm down. We'll do our Q&A because then we can, I guess, because we're done now. That's it. The coronial is finished. I can talk real quick next time about tell everyone where I'm at and how I got where I'm at now because everything's good now.
Yeah, definitely.
I think a lot of cops have a hard time transitioning from the police force, let alone transitioning. And a lot of cops do have their names in the media. I know that we don't think it too much, but I've had a lot of cops reach out and they've got their names in the media. So on different scales, they're dealing with the same thing. So transitioning plus reputation management in a way.
Yeah.
I know a lot of cops, we know, have a hard time transitioning from the police force to the normal world, but it's fucking doable. And there's still good shit out there. So, yeah, maybe next time we talk about, how I got to where I'm at now. Because, again, it wasn't easy, but so doable. Sorry, it wasn't easy, but it was simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I think everyone needs to understand there's something might not be easy, but it's still simple. And if it's simple, that's good because you can just work hard, follow the track, and that's what I did. So everyone can follow that blueprint. And then if there's Q&As, if there's questions people want, we can talk that. And then
there's plenty.
We can have some chats about random shit going on in the world with the police. And
Mate,
Yep.
there's definitely plenty of Q&A. And look, I think it's really important, especially for somebody like yourself. I know Damo and I, we faced our demons when we left the
Mm-hmm.
police. Everybody does. You lose a sense of yourself, I
Yeah,
think,
for sure.
to an extent.
Yeah.
And it's nice for other people to hear, especially like from yourself. They've heard
Mm.
how Damo and I transitioned and all our demons and all that sort of thing. But
Mm.
someone like yourself, I think it's really important for somebody to hear how you did it
Mm.
because, mate, honestly, I think I can speak on Damo's behalf here. We're actually quite impressed with how you've actually
Hey,
moved on. So,
thank you,
and
brother. Thank
yeah,
you.
Yeah, definitely, mate. So I think what next time we'll probably, have another good, always have a good yarn. We'll have to might even look at a couple of funny Alice Springs stories. There's plenty of them.
yeah,
100%.
The Q&A will be really good. There's lots of people who've asked questions and we just haven't been able to get to it yet. So everyone listening
Yeah.
who's asked a question that hasn't had it answered, you're going to get it answered. All of the Q&A stuff for Zach, we'll put it right through so everyone can have their questions answered. We'll lighten it up and we'll get a carton of the week off you too. We want a funny story for
100%.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's always
So,
a
Sounds
couple.
good.
Mate, you're not going to get out of it.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
down. I've already got my story there.
Oh, he's all over it. No, that's good. So obviously, stay tuned. We're going ahead. We've got some other guests coming forward. I think Zach Rolfe may be a permanent member of the Two Ordinary Cops team.
The two
Three
Ordinary Cops
Stooges.
plus Zach.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're going to change it.
The Three Stooges, but that's all right.
yeah,
So we'll wrap it up, guys. That's bloody mate. Thank you very much. It's hard work going back through that. What was a very tough time in your life, but we appreciate it, mate.
Hey,
yeah,
thank you, guys.
yeah, mate. Our admiration. It is incredible. Thank you.
You guys are the man. Thank you,
All
boys.
right, the Touring Cop signing off.